September 24, 2009. In the quiet community of Mount Airy, Maryland, neighbors expected nothing more than another ordinary Thursday night. Families went to bed, children tucked beneath blankets, and the streets fell silent. But inside one home, darkness was about to swallow an entire family. The next morning, co-workers grew concerned when Jennifer Dalton, a 37-year-old mother of two, didn't show up for her job at a veterinary clinic. Calls went unanswered. Hours later, state troopers forced their way into the Dalton residence and made a discovery so chilling it would haunt the town forever. Inside the house were 4 bodies. Jennifer Dalton was found shot to death in the master bedroom. Nearby were her children, Charles Dalton Jr., 14, and Emmeline Dalton, just 7 years old. Each killed as they slept. And lying beside them was the killer himself. Husband and father, Charles L. Dalton Sr. 38 dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Even the family's dog had been shot and left inside a crate. To the outside world, the Daltons seemed like a normal family. Charles Sr. worked as a carpenter and maintenance worker. Jennifer was known for her kindness and devotion. But beneath the surface, the family struggled with serious financial problems, debts, unpaid bills, and the stress that came with them. Those pressures, investigators believe, pushed Charles Sr. to commit the unthinkable. What drives a husband and father to turn on his own family? Was it financial despair, hidden anger, or something far darker? This is the story of the Dalton family murders. An American tragedy where love, trust, and safety were destroyed overnight by the very man meant to protect them. Classification: murderer. Characteristics: parricide. Number of victims. Date of murders: September 24, 2009. Date of birth: 1971. Victims profile: his wife, Jennifer A. Dalton, their son, Charles L. Dalton Jr., 14, and their daughter, Emmeline E. Dalton. 7. Method of murder: shooting. 12. Gauge pump shotgun. Location: Mount Airy, Maryland, USA. Status: committed suicide by shooting himself the same day. Shocked Mount Airy community reacts to murder-suicide. Preliminary information indicates family had financial problems. September 25th. A shocked Frederick County community is reacting to a murder-suicide involving a family of 4. Flowers and signs mark the place where police said Charles L. Dalton Sr., 38, killed himself, his family, and the family dog. Besides Dalton, the deceased are identified as Dalton's wife, Jennifer A. Dalton, 37, their son, Charles L. Dalton Jr., teen, and their daughter, Emmeline E. Dalton. All 4 lived in a quad-level home in the 300 block of Contour Road, Mount Airy. Investigators believe the murders and suicide occurred between Thursday night and Friday morning. Jennifer Dalton failed to report to work at her part-time job at a veterinary hospital in Damascus. Fellow employees called her home and cell phone beginning at 8:30 a.m. Friday, but received no answer. Maryland State Police spokesman Greg Shipley said there is preliminary information indicating that the family may have been experiencing financial difficulties. That's part of what our investigators are continuing to look into, said Shipley. Neighbors described the couple as religious and kind. Jack Gillespie told 11 News reporter Melissa Carlson that every time it snowed, Dalton and his wife would come over and shovel his driveway. I would keep asking if I could pay, and Dalton kept turning me down, said Gillespie. Emmeline Dalton was in 2nd grade at Twin Ridge Elementary School. Mama told me this morning that she was dead, and I had tears coming down because she was one of the best persons I know, said friend Sarah Turton. Charles Dalton Jr. was in 9th grade. He was a junior firefighter at the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company, the same company that responded to the 911 call Friday night. This is tough for everybody, said Doug Alexander of the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Department. We brought together all the junior members of the company, along with their parents, and brought in the Critical Incident Stress Management Team, which helps these people deal with the grieving process and the healing process," said Alexander. The 4 were identified Saturday during autopsies conducted at the office of the chief medical examiner in Baltimore. The medical examiner said the cause of death for Jennifer Dalton and her 2 children was murder. The cause of death for Charles Dalton Sr. was suicide. Investigators said Jennifer Dalton was found lying in bed in the master bedroom. Charles Dalton Sr. was found lying next to the bed. A 12-gauge pump shotgun was found next to his body. Troopers have not found a suicide note. Charles Dalton Jr. was found in bed in his bedroom. Emmeline Dalton was found in her bed in a separate bedroom. The preliminary investigation indicates Jennifer Dalton and her 2 children were shot by her husband as they slept. Mr. Dalton then used the same shotgun to commit suicide. One of her co-workers stopped by the house at 2:15 p.m. Friday, but there was no answer at the door. Maryland State Police spokesman Greg Shipley said Friday that a friend had seen a body through a window and called police. Troopers found the 2 adults and 2 children about 30 p.m. on Friday. The family dog, a beagle, was also found dead. The dog had been shot while in a crate inside the front door of the home. Troopers learned Charles Dalton Sr. was self-employed as a carpenter and cabinet maker. He also worked the night shift as a maintenance worker for Montgomery County Schools. Police Mod Man killed wife, 2 children. Then September 26, 2009. Mount Airy. Appy authorities said they found 4 members of a family slain Friday in a home in central Maryland, but they said they were not searching for any suspects. State troopers found the 4, a man, a woman, a boy, and a girl, about 5:30 p.m. Maryland State Police spokesman Greg Shipley said. Troopers who were inside say it obviously was a murder scene, Shipley said. Each body sustained trauma. He said it was not clear how the injuries were inflicted. Shipley said troopers had determined there was no further threat. "We don't know what we have here," Shipley said. Friday night, adding that investigators have yet to look for evidence at the scene. "We do not have an active search underway at this point." Shipley said police were called to the home in Mount Airy Friday afternoon by a concerned friend who had not heard from them for a few days. The caller reported seeing a body through the window of the split-level home. A neighbor said a couple lived there with their son and daughter. The bodies were to be taken to the medical examiner's office in Baltimore for autopsy. Mount Airy is about 30 miles west of Baltimore. Update: Maryland State Police say a man shot and killed his wife and 2 children before turning the shotgun on himself. State Police announced the findings Saturday, one day after the bodies of 38-year-old Charles and 37-year-old Jennifer Dalton were found in their Mount Airy home. Their children were identified as 14-year-old Charles Jr. and 7-year-old Emmeline. Police spokesman Greg Shipley says no suicide note was found. He says the preliminary investigation indicates that Jennifer Dalton and the children were shot as they slept. The body of Charles Dalton Sr. was found in the master bedroom next to the bed. 4 found dead inside Mount Airy home. September 27, 2009. A murder-suicide has been confirmed for the 4 victims found dead inside a Mount Airy home Saturday night. The deceased are identified as Charles L. Dalton Sr., 38, the husband and father, his wife, Jennifer. A. Dalton, their son, Charles L. Dalton Jr., and their daughter, Emmeline E. Dalton. The 4 were identified today during autopsies conducted at the office of the chief medical examiner in Baltimore. The medical examiner determined each person died of a single gunshot wound to the head. The cause of death for Jennifer Dalton and her 2 children was murder. The cause of death for Charles Dalton Sr. was suicide. Maryland State Police investigators and crime scene technicians spent last night and most of the early morning hours today processing the scene. Investigators said Jennifer Dalton was found lying in bed in the master bedroom. Charles Dalton Sr. was found lying next to the bed. A 12-gauge pump shotgun was found next to his body. Troopers have not found a suicide note. Charles Dalton Jr. was found in bed in his bedroom. Emmeline Dalton was found in her bed in a separate bedroom. The preliminary investigation indicates Mrs. Dalton and her 2 children were shot by her husband as they slept. Mr. Dalton then used the same shotgun to commit suicide. All 4 victims were shot in the head. The family dog, a beagle, was also found dead. The dog had been shot while in a crate inside the front door of the home. Investigators believe the murders and suicide occurred between Thursday night and Friday morning. A motive for the murders has not been clearly identified at this time. Mrs. Dalton failed to report to work at her part-time job at a veterinary hospital in Damascus. Fellow employees called her home and cell phone beginning at 8:30 a.m. Friday, but received no answer. One of Mrs. Dalton's co-workers stopped by the house at 2:15 p.m. Friday, but there was no answer at the door. There was no school in Frederick County Friday. Troopers learned Charles Dalton Sr. was self-employed as a carpenter and cabinet maker. He also worked the night shift as a maintenance worker for Montgomery County Schools. Emmeline Dalton was an elementary school student. Charles Dalton Jr. was in 9th grade. He was a junior firefighter at the Airy Volunteer Fire Company, the same company that responded to his home yesterday. Airy Deaths Update. Investigators are still determining how 4 people died inside a home in Airy near the Carroll County line. Troopers on the scene said it appeared to be a murder scene, but State Police spokesman Greg Shipley says they are not searching for any suspects. The victims are preliminarily identified as 1 adult male, 1 adult female, 1 male child, and 1 female child. Shipley says the 4 are believed to be part of one family. The grim discovery was made at about 5:30 Friday afternoon inside a home in the 300 block of Contour Road. A family friend had gone to the home concerned after not hearing from them for a few days. State Police spokesman Greg Shipley says that friend went to the back of the split-level home, looked in a window, saw what appeared to be a body, and called 911. Troopers who were inside say it obviously was a murder scene, Shipley said. Each body sustained trauma, but he said it was not clear how the injuries were inflicted. The house sits on a corner lot. There is a for sale sign on the property. According to the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation's website, the property is owned by Charles and Jennifer Dalton. Neighbor John Gillespie said that the people who lived there were Charles Dalton and his wife, whose name she did not know, and children Chuck, about 13, and Emmeline, about 7. She said the mother did not work outside of the home as far as she knew. Gillespie said Charles Dalton had a cabinet business worked out of his home and had a work truck. A company called Imagine Millwork has a website listing the home as its address. Gillespie said the family moved there about 2.5 years ago, and the house has been for sale for about a year. She said the children seemed happy, and she had not seen any sign of trouble between the parents. Another neighbor, Tom Watkins, said, Charles Dalton always had a smile on his face and a nice wave. But Watkins said he did not know the family personally. In April, a man in Middletown in Frederick County shot and killed his wife and 3 children before killing himself in their home. Mount Airy man kills wife, to children himself in home. Sunday, September 27, 2009. Maryland State Police have determined that a family of 4 who were found dead in their Frederick County home Friday were killed in a murder-suicide. Police said a preliminary investigation indicated that Charles L. Dalton Sr., 38, shot his wife, teenage son, and young daughter while they slept in their beds in the family's Mount Airy house, then took his own life sometime between Thursday night and early Friday morning. An autopsy determined that Dalton's wife, Jennifer Dalton, the couple's son, Charles Jr., 14, and daughter Emmeline, 7. Each died of a single gunshot wound to the head. Police said Charles Dalton was found shot dead next to the bed in the master bedroom, a 12-gauge shotgun by his side. He had apparently also shot the family's dog, a beagle, in its crate near the front door. State troopers have not found a suicide note and have not identified a motive for the killings. According to police, Jennifer Dalton failed to show up at her part-time job at a veterinary hospital in Damascus on Friday morning. After attempting to reach her several times, one of her co-workers stopped by the family's home in the 300 block of Contour Road in the afternoon and noticed a body through a window. Police and neighbors said that Charles Dalton was a night maintenance worker for Montgomery County Schools and that he ran his own carpentry and cabinet-making business. State records list the business as Imagine Millwork, which Dun & Bradstreet describes as a private company with 2 employees and estimated annual sales of $400,000. Charles Jr. was in the 9th grade at Linganore High School and a junior firefighter at the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company, the same company that responded to the Dalton home Friday. Police and neighbors said Emmeline was a student at Twin Ridge Elementary, according to neighbors. State property records indicate that the Daltons moved to the neighborhood from Olney in early 2000. Jack Gillespie, who lives next door, described the Dalton children as cheerful and well-behaved, and their parents as friendly church-going neighbors. Gillespie said Jennifer Dalton once showed up with a batch of brownies and a smile after the Gillespies' oven caught fire while they were trying to bake brownies. "It's shocking," he said. "This is the last family you would expect this of." The Dalton family murder-suicide shocked Mount Airy not only for its brutality, but for its betrayal. Behind the doors of a quiet suburban home, a father chose to destroy the very people he was supposed to protect, his wife and 2 young children. For investigators, the motive seemed clear: financial collapse. Bills had piled up. The family was drowning in debt, and Charles Sear may have seen no way out. But to friends and neighbors, the explanation felt painfully insufficient. Jennifer was described as loving and hard-working. The children were bright, full of potential. To lose them all in a single night was incomprehensible. The tragedy highlighted a haunting reality. Financial stress can push some to the brink, but most do not take the lives of those they love. The Dalton case stands as a reminder that behind closed doors, even the most ordinary families may be carrying unbearable burdens. In the aftermath, Mount Airy mourned 3 innocent lives and questioned how such warning signs could go unnoticed. Candles, flowers, and prayers filled the neighborhood, but no answers could undo the devastation. The Dalton murders remain a chilling example of how quickly desperation can turn to destruction, and how sometimes the greatest threats to a family's safety come from within.